Team 78, featuring the Greenfield Gunner, Mike Edwards, former Maryville Scot, Donnie Moore, former UT coach, Ray Trail, from the Daily Times, Marcus Fitzsimmons, and Troy Pro O'Haron.
Hello, everybody, and greetings from the Blueticks Tavern in downtown Maryville. I'm Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, along with Donnie Moore, Troy Pro O'Haron, Marcus Fitzsimmons, and Coach Ray Trail. And this is the Goatee Sports Page. Mage wins the Kentucky Derby. Hall of Fame horse trainer Todd Pletcher suspended, and we're going to the whistle blows. It's the University of Tennessee Sports Report, sponsored by the Cherokee Group and the Klein Dental Arts SEC Notebook with volunteer football coaching legend Ray Trail, Daily Times sports editor Troy Pro O'Haron, and veteran sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons. Today, we will weigh in on the latest UT sports news. Tennessee basketball and baseball will be in the discussion. Donnie Moore will announce high school scores from around the area and then mark it down with Marcus Fitzsimmons, sponsored by Mandy B. Street Realty. Features Greenback Cherokee baseball as head coach Justin Ridenauer joins Marcus. Daily Times sports editor Troy Pro O'Haron presents the Anderson Lumber Company High School Player of the Week segment. Samuel Everett School of Innovation tennis coach Mark Rivera will be in the house. Donnie Moore and the panel discuss sports headlines from around the country before the Tennessee Smoky Spotlight shines on the passing of college basketball coaching great Denny Crum. And finally, the panel gives their Shelter Insurance bowl predictions for the week. Horse racing will be in the discussion. And now it's time for the UT Sports Report, sponsored by the Cherokee Group and the Klein Dental Arts SEC Notebook, featuring Coach Ray Trail and sports writers Troy Pro O'Haron and Marcus Fitzsimmons, along with Donnie Moore. Tennessee basketball, Troy, in the news. Forward Julian Phillips is entering the transfer portal. He was a McDonald's All-American, a former five-star recruit, 6'8" forward. He was ranked 13th in the top 100 coming out of high school. Considered a first-round draft pick when he entered college here at the University of Tennessee. Troy, he's gone.
He's
after
gone.
1 year.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's also in the NBA draft, so could get drafted and leave and all that stuff and not come back to college next year. But, yeah, he's done. And I would say that a pretty disappointing 1 year in Tennessee for Julian Phillips. And
2 games?
Yeah, I mean,
of note.
He played 2 games of note, and I think, he had that play, drawn a blank on who it was against, but where he failed to make the layup on when he had the wide open layup and they didn't make it, and they ended up losing on the buzzer beater. Missouri. And I don't think he was ever the same after that for whatever reason. He just kind of fell out of the rotation and never really made an impact after that kind of gaffe. Don't know how much that affected him or whatnot. But, yeah, obviously Tennessee is in the process of restructuring a lot of its roster right now. A lot of those seniors had the opportunity to come back if they wanted to. From my vantage point, it doesn't seem like the basketball team wanted most of them to come back, with maybe the exception of Santiago Vescovi. And so, yeah, I think it's just, you're transitioning, and you had the looks of a team that could be really good last year and obviously did not live up to any of those expectations, so maybe something has to change.
Coach Trail, I know that Phillips was brought in here kind of under the assumption that he was going to be a one-and-done player. That was the impression that was evidently he got, and maybe a lot of other people got, but he averaged 8.3 points a game. He started 25 games, and then he injured a hip. Solid defensive player. Outside shot was suspect. Played his best basketball early in the season. He had 25 points at that tournament down in the Battle for Atlantis against Southern California. He's ranked 52nd on the ESPN's 2023 NBA draft ranking, but I don't know. I'm not drafting people, but here's a guy that really didn't have all that great a year. I mean, he's got potential. Are you looking at him for potential? What are you looking for him? He wasn't very exceptional, his first year here, huh?
It's really hard in thinking, and of course, I'm an advocate of the old school, which a freshman would play on the freshman team and acclimate and get acclimated to it. And some of these guys come in and they've been superstars in high school, and they come in and all of a sudden, I mean, it's a tremendous change, you know, to go from high school to college and be a player. You know, I mean, you can coast in, but when people start putting the pressure on you to play as a freshman, you know, that 4 or 5 year difference in age right there is really a tell. And it takes a little while for a guy to adjust. I don't care how big they are. They're still 18, 17, 18 years old. You know, I mean, everybody says, well, he's this, he's gone. I'm telling you, it's a tremendous change.
And you're coming out of high school where you were kind of the top dog.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of kids don't understand when you go to college, you're starting all over again. I really liked that year. You know, I went through the program. You were over there when I was over there, and we had the freshman teams in football and basketball, and it's where you acclimated yourself to the sport, academics, and athletics.
Yeah.
But the NCAA, they sold out to the devil, really. When they got rid of that, academics kind of slid down the road. You don't hear much about that much anymore. It's all about, you know, pro and so preparing them for the pro game and this and that and the other. But anyway, Julian Phillips, Marcus, good defensive player, solid defensive player. Seems like he fit the mold here in Coach Barnes' system. Why would he leave after just 1 year? Do you think there was something that happened right there at the end of the year, tension-wise, maybe between him and the coaching staff, or not, huh?
I mean, I couldn't speculate on the relationship that went on, but my guess is if I was looking at it from a coaching perspective or from UT's perspective, if you've got a guy who's not going to commit to come back because he's thinking NBA, this is just a move on his part that just in case he changes his mind, he's in the transfer portal and can look for a new place to play because Tennessee's ready to move on and get its roster set. And they had 3 signings this week to do that. Well, they can't do that if he's hanging out there in the wind as maybe he's coming back, maybe he's not.
Yeah. Troy, compared to what they've got coming back and what kind of player Julian Phillips was, obviously he could have come on the next 2 or 3 years and really been a force over here. What is his loss? What does his loss mean to this program going forward here? They're kind of downplaying everything, in my opinion, over there.
Yeah, but what are you actually losing? I mean, you lose a really good defensive player, but Rick only really recruits good defensive players. So
it hurts you recruiting-wise because it's a 5-star that didn't pan out for you, and people will point to that when they're looking for something to point out.
They've had plenty of 5-stars that didn't pan out. Yeah. I mean, I could look at
it's just the latest one.
I could look at Josiah Jordan-James and say, I mean, he's had a good Tennessee career, but I don't think he's lived up to his high school ranking. Obviously, we talked a lot about Keon Johnson and Jaden Springer their year. They didn't live up to their 5-star ranking. It's kind of been a say what you want about Rick and Kevin Durant and all that stuff, but post Kevin Durant, his coaching career has been filled with a lot of 5-star guys who have not lived up to whatever rating that they were given out of high school for the most part. Obviously, there are some exceptions in that, but he's found a lot more success recruiting the 3-star, the low 4-star guy and developing them as opposed to the one-and-done guys who just have not panned out for whatever reason. And so I don't think they lose that much, in all honesty. He's a really good defensive player, but he's not any different than any of the other dudes they have on the roster in terms of what they do defensively. And he never, in the slightest, showed any development to his offensive game last year throughout the season. So I don't think they lose a player who changes their trajectory or thought for next season.
I always worry a little bit about, especially a player of the caliber of Phillips, if and potential, if he doesn't go the pro route, which I don't know. I doubt it. I mean, it would surprise me to a certain extent. But what kind of scares me is if he ends up at another SEC school, say he goes to Auburn and just plays lights out down there, or he goes to another major college school and plays really well.
Run somewhere else, but I think he missed the SEC deadline to get in the transfer portal. So I don't think he can go to an SC school without sitting out for a year.
Okay. But he can go to another major
But he
school.
go to another major school.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think that's also how the portal is changing things is, one, programs are smart. Some of the programs, and I think Tennessee may be one of them in basketball, are managing their roster saying, if you're not sure, we don't need you anyway, so we're moving on without you. Don't worry about it. Go ahead and get in the portal.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they're looking at guys and saying, okay, you've proved you can score in a college game. You're averaging 18 points a game. Yeah, we'll much rather try giving that a scholarship than bringing somebody out of high school who may or may not pan out and may or not be able to cut it in college, or may not be able to go to class, or may not.
Class? What's that?
Well, some of them do that.
Yeah. But when they had the freshmen that weren't eligible,
Yeah.
you could count on them being there a year.
That's right.
They were going to be there a year to see how they were going to work, and you could work those guys into your varsity practices and get a feel. And after your freshman year there in that situation, you kind of knew what the situation was going to be with you. Are you going to have to wait a little bit before you work yourself in, or are you going to get right in there as a sophomore? And I think kids were a little more patient back then, because if you transferred, you're going to have to sit out a year.
Yeah.
And, you were, that was –
And you were really starting over then.
Yeah.
One of my coaches were guaranteeing you were going to come there, sit out a year, and then play.
Yeah.
And Mike, when they lost FAU in Madison Square Garden, Josiah Jordan-James sat on the podium afterward and alluded to some things, whether it be in the locker room, within the program, that team dealt with throughout the season that was unknown to media, unknown to fans. And when he said that, you got the belief that they were moving toward a clean slate as a program.
Yeah. Well, the other basketball player that has decided to enter the portal is B.J. Edwards. A little bit different situation than we've got with Phillips. He played one season at Tennessee also, but he was a four-star prospect from Knoxville Catholic. And Coach Trail, this is what's making him different. He was a local guy.
Yeah.
And Coach Barnes has not been real successful over there with local guys. He had Pember, who was at Bearden. I went over and saw him play, and I thought, well, man, this is a big guy. He plays outside. He's fluid. He shoots the outside jump shot. I thought, this guy's got some potential that maybe he can work on in. And he didn't last. He didn't last over there. And then he goes to, I think, UNC Asheville.
Right.
And
Big South Player of the Year.
Player of the Year.
Player of the Year.
Player of the Year this past year. And then, it's just you don't want to lose those local guys, because you may have that really, truly great one, and you're not going to get him. You see?
It's just like we talked about a while ago. Nobody has any patience anymore. It's one and done. One and done. And, some of your big guys, they are big guys. I know in football, just because you're big doesn't mean that you're ready mentally to play the game. You've always stood out where you were. You were the superstar. You were the biggest guy on the court and all that. And then you come in there and you throw them in there all at one time. That's why I love the freshman year that you had a chance to acclimate. Yep. And now that, nobody cares.
Yep.
It's one, like you say, one and done, go somewhere else. Yep. But, the bigger they are, sometimes it takes, how long did it take Tom Boylwinkle to play over there?
Yeah. There was a guy that just developed through the years. And this is what kind of baffled me about B.J. Edwards, because I think that they were high on him as a development player, that they felt like that eventually he could really make an impact over there. And this was just sort of an acclimating year for him to get adjusted, and then he gives it up after 1 year. Marcus, your thoughts on B.J. Edwards and his decision to leave after 1 year?
Well, it worked out well for him. I mean, he's going to have a great college career, whether he was at Tennessee or not. And this day and age, who knows? Maybe he's back at Tennessee at some point.
He just committed to SMU yesterday.
Okay. I hadn't followed up on that one. So, but he's leaving there and going. So this is going to be his third school in 3 years.
Second school in 2 years, as he was a freshman this year.
Second, yeah.
Well, if you count Catholic, it would be his third school in 3 years.
Okay. So you just got to mean, I don't think it's going to be. I think it's a thing. I don't think you're going to get that kind of commitment anymore. You're not going to. And Coach said it. There is no patience for it, and it's on both sides. I mean, and this is the really sad situation you create. And I know you can't believe when I'm bringing up academics twice in 10 minutes when we're talking about NCAA, but if you got a kid who comes in and decides midway through the season, you know what, I'm not playing, I'm not doing this, you can literally just create a troublemaker who no longer needs to go to class, doesn't have to worry about passing anything now. I'm in the transfer portal, and can literally sit around your dorm and cause trouble with nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Writing was on the wall for BJ, too. I mean, he's a point guard. Zakai tears his ACL, and he plays, 7 minutes a game at at times. Most
really
games he didn't
on.
even play. So, I mean, when your starting point guard goes down, you have a point guard on the bench, and that point guard can't find the floor. When your starting point guard blows out his knee, writing was on the wall. You're gone.
But still, with both of those players, it would be a different story if they weren't performing as a junior or senior. But these are kids that were unproven as a freshman.
Right.
That's the big disappointment right here. These kids are just now – they're just now in the developmental stage. They've not got off the launch pad is what I'm trying to say.
No.
Now, somebody's going to take advantage of these kids and bring them on up when they go somewhere else, or maybe not. They may be back in the transfer portal again. I don't know what's going to happen. But anyway, they're down those. They've lost those two players, two pretty good players, especially Phillips. I really hated to see him go, and a lot of people, I think that it was up in the air for several weeks when, I don't think that makes his situation any better when you hold off like that on the decision with the coaching staff and kind of leave them hanging up there. Hey, let's talk a little bit about the baseball team. Let's talk about the softball team first, because Troy, they may be able to duplicate what the men did last year, win the regular season and the SEC championship. And they'll be playing for that today.
They will, and it's a big deal. And they've got a really good team. You could probably say that Kiki Malloy got snubbed of SEC Player of the Year, and Carlin Pickens won SEC Freshman of the Year. They got a really, really good team over there, and obviously we want to go see them
and
win
gritty
that thing.
too.
Yeah,
Because of the weather delays and everything that happened. They played two yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
They played the first game and the last game and win them both.
I was looking back, and you all correct me if I'm wrong here, but their championship in the regular season is the first championship this year for UT Sports, is it not? Can you all think of another one?
I believe it is. I was thinking about the same thing.
I think it's the first championship for all of the UT Sports this year, unless somebody can come up with another one, but I wasn't able to think of one. So quite an accomplishment. And if you can win the tournament,
they had a swimmer who won the national championship.
Yeah, but I'm talking about team-wise.
Okay,
I'm talking about a team championship.
I got to think of soccer as the one that I'm thinking of, maybe. But
the Lady Vols softball team ranked number 4 in the country, and I was a little bit surprised from after they won the league that it had been, I think, 2011. Does that make sense? It's been a while since they've won, and all the great teams they've had over there in softball. A little bit surprising that they haven't won more championships, huh?
Well, it is if you're a Tennessee fan and you haven't realized it. But if you're an SEC fan, I mean, you've had an incredible run by Alabama in recent years. Mm-hmm. You've had basically a conference that is going 7-8 deep in your top 25 every year. So the fact that you can play in this conference and win a conference championship is good, but it's one of those things you can't count on it. I mean, Alabama had teams that went to the College World Series that could win a conference championship. Lady Vols had teams that went to the College World Series that couldn't win the SEC.
Yeah. Well, let me correct what I said. They haven't won the SEC tournament since 2011. Not so sure on the conference.
We were debating that
regular
before.
season.
Was that Sarah's last year, or was that the year after she left? Because it was Monica Abbott's last year, I believe.
Yeah. Karen Weekly, Coach of the Year.
Mike, the girls' soccer team did win the SEC East Championship.
Okay.
Yes, they did.
Thanks for correcting me
Division
on that.
championship.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Karen Weekly, SEC Coach of the Year. rightfully so. They dominated the conference regular season pretty much from wire to wire. Yesterday was impressive because they beat Florida, Marcus. They beat Florida,
In the morning.
and then they had to play Alabama there. I think Alabama was ranked 13th. Good, solid team there, and they were down 4, and came back to win 7-6. So that was impressive.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the late game.
Yeah.
I mean, I had my concerns because of the way this, they were going to do that the day before and do the early game to try to catch up from the game they missed the first day because they've been behind all week. I was concerned that Tennessee, when the schedule finally got ironed out, was going to play the first game and then have to come back and play the late game because that's a lot of downtime and a lot can change in 8 or 9 hours. And so I was glad to see them come out. I don't think they were flat, but you could tell they'd been up all day. But at the end of that game, they had the lead and they closed it out when they needed to. And that's not something every Tennessee team has been able to do in the 9th inning in that situation.
Yeah, and they've got South Carolina today at 3 o'clock on ESPN, and this is not a double elimination tournament, so this is for the championship today at 3 o'clock. Tennessee's baseball team, the good thing about them, Coach Trail, is they're at home. They're home against Kentucky this weekend. They are 30-4. This is unreal. They're 30-4 at home, and they're 2-11 on the road. Now, back in our day, we had a name for teams that were like that. We kind of called them what? Homers. They could play with anybody at home and beat them, but going on the road, it was tough go. But that's kind of the way this looks right here.
Yep, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way it looks. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
And they have a hard time on the road. I don't know why, but that's always strange to me that going on the road, the field's the same. Everything else is the same. I mean, why can't
not
you
in
not
baseball.
play there? Why
Not in baseball.
The field are not the same in baseball.
A home run at Lindsey Nelson is not necessarily a home run at Georgia.
Well, I know we're talking about the home run, but I'm talking about the game itself.
Well, the game doesn't change, but in a way it does because you can play a long ball game in Lindsey Nelson. You can't necessarily play it in every venue.
Yeah. What's really baffling about this is we go back to the first series on the road. We talked a little bit about this last week, Marcus, with you, and the fact that Tennessee lost 3 straight on the road to Missouri. Missouri's the last place team in the East. Georgia's the next to the last place team in the East. And Tennessee, as good as they've played at times this year and as good as they've played at home, and they are ranked nationally, they've lost 5 out of 6 games to 2 of the worst teams in the league. Huh?
But in this league,
that's not
I don't find it surprising. I mean, if we're talking basketball, if we're talking football, if you're talking about the football team had lost to Kentucky and Vanderbilt, but beaten everybody else in the East, that's something unusual. But in baseball in this league, where I think you could put Missouri and Georgia in almost any other conference and they would be in the top 3 or 4. It's just they're playing in the SEC.
Yeah. I also think I think those road things are a little bit skewed in the fact that, yes, they lost 3 to Missouri, and I think Tennessee's a much better team than Missouri, but they caught them at the beginning of SEC play when it's still cold in Columbia, Missouri. The Tigers are really good in their home stadium for that reason because Columbia is brutal to play in at that time of the year. And the other 2 series outside of Georgia they lost have been to number 1 LSU and top 5 Arkansas. They haven't. It's not like they've played bums on the road. They've played good teams on the road.
Yeah.
I do think that depending on what happens, finish off the Kentucky series, your next series against South Carolina, if you end up in a bad situation seed-wise in the postseason, depending on what those happened, we might be looking back at the second game at Georgia because Tennessee won really powerfully on Friday. We were all happy about them a week ago. And then Saturday, it was like they had their chance. They had opportunities to win that game. They could have done it, and they could not produce again on the road in that situation.
Kentucky started off really well this year in the SEC, but they've sort of leveled out, gone down a little bit, and the Vols can catch them in the standings this weekend. I think going into the series, Kentucky was 14-10 in the SEC standings, and Tennessee was 12-12 record-wise. So Tennessee sweeps, then they'll catch Kentucky, and then that would leave South Carolina, ahead of them, and they got the series out. South Carolina next week. Unfortunately, that's on the road, so they got to go to South Carolina next week. Troy, my question is, maybe you can piece this together a little bit because you follow them. You're going to be over there today, and I assume the rest of the weekend. What do they have to do in order to be at home, in postseason play?
Yeah.
What are they going to have to do?
My belief, and I'm no bracketologist, Baseball America D1 baseball guy, but my belief is if you go 5-1 these final 2 weekends, I mean, their RPI is incredible. It's a top 15 RPI. It probably is a schedule worthy of hosting a regional if you're successful enough. And I'm of the belief that if you are, that would make them 18-13, 18-12 in conference play or something like that, if all my math is right. I mean, that's in the SEC. That's remarkable. And so I think if you go 5-1 to finish out here these last 2 weekends, and they got one yesterday, so 4-1 the rest of the way. But you do that, I think you're in. Maybe you help yourself by winning that single elimination in the first round in the SEC tournament, and then you kind of guarantee yourself 2 more games. Maybe you pick up another win. But like I said 2 weeks ago, the bottom of this regional hosting race it's fairly weak compared to past years. I mean, Indiana State's been sitting on that projected 16 seed host seed for a while, and no offense to the Sycamores, but if an 18-12 or a 17-13 SEC baseball team comes around and says, hey, that team probably deserves to host a little bit more than the Indiana State Sycamores. No offense to them, but that's just the way it goes.
So you're ruling out Northeastern because we were talking that they were in the top 25 poll.
I mean, I'm not ruling out anybody. There's some good teams. I mean, college baseball's a wacky, crazy world, but I think Tennessee just has, especially since South Carolina is a good team. You go out there and you win 2 of 3 in Columbia next week, win a game in the SEC tournament, win a game or 2. I just think it's going to be really hard to keep them out of hosting a regional.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned it, but Tennessee won last night 10-6.
Yes.
So
5 home runs.
They're on their way, and they'll play the second game of that series today.
Coach,
I also do think that
let me ask Troy one other one. Do you think it would be advantageous for Tennessee to be in contention to host and not host?
I was literally just about to say that. I think if one of the projections right now is, I think Tennessee does the 2 seed in top hot or whatever you say, wherever Indiana State is. Mike, you're the Indiana guy, you know what it is, but they're the 2 seed in Indiana State's region with Notre Dame as the 3 and somebody else who's not relevant as the 4. And I think if Tennessee were to get that exact regional, they're the favorite to get out of the regional, and I think they'd feel really good about that situation.
Yeah. But do you think they would play this team in particular, not last year's team where they were carrying so much, but this team, do they need to be on the road in the NCAA tournament as an underdog and carry that a legitimate underdog chip and not a manufactured one?
I think it's part of it, and I do think I know people say that I'm a little crazy because you look at their road record and people probably
nobody hears that.
They've lost 11 out of 13 games on the road.
People probably look at their road record and say you want to be hosting, but I honestly think their greatest strength is their pitching, and if that's the case, you get a bigger advantage playing in a bigger ballpark as opposed to playing on a hot day at Lindsey Nelson Stadium in the middle of June where a team might just muscle out some balls and beat you because their offense isn't bad, but it's not like this dominant level of baseball that they've played last year. You know what I'm saying? So I think that there is some sort of benefit to going on the road, but, I mean, you also want to play at home. I don't know. It's not an exact science.
If they're playing Slippery Rock on the road in the tournament after losing 11 out of 13, I'm taking Slippery Rock and the runs.
Well, that'd be a great
Slippery Rock
and
the runs.
That'd be a great way to lose some money, I guess.
Well, we have a market down segment, or we have a market down segment towards the end in June. We can actually get some of that.
Yeah. Well, Troy mentioned that the cold weather was a factor. Out there in Missouri.
Yeah.
Well, Indiana State still in the running, and it's still cold up there. It's been cold all spring. Yeah, up there. Hey, it's time to turn the page, and up next is the local scoreboard with Goatee Sports Page veteran Donnie Moore and Mark It Down featuring Marcus Fitzsimmons. You're listening to the Goatee Sports Page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
Hit a grand slam with Knoxville TVA Employees Credit Union to win big on savings. On first, member-managed funds account. On second, free spend account. On third, certificate accounts with competitive savings rates. Load your bases at tvacreditunion.com.
Join us now.
Federally insured by NCUA. Must use e-statements for no fee option. Some restrictions may apply. Ask for details.
Since 1925, Anderson Lumber in Alcoa has proudly served and supported our local communities. But did you know Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store? You can stop in anytime and see our incredible kitchen showroom. From floors to cabinets and everything in between, Anderson Lumber's experts can help you design your dream kitchen. And then our install team will make it a reality. For anything home, we welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber, since 1925.
Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com. Merlin's Music World in Maryville is owned and operated by Dylan Davis and has been a fixture in Maryville since 1987. Guitars, amplifiers, lessons, sound system, and video system installations are products available at Merlin's. Merlin's also offers a 24-track digital recording studio featuring audio engineer Rusty Chambers. Visit Merlin's at 1920 East Lamar Alexander Parkway or call 977-0093.
We all want our loved ones to be safe. Denso in Maryville is at the forefront of creating technology for safer vehicles. Join the automotive industry with Denso in a fast, challenging, clean, and safe environment. They offer great benefits and competitive pay, as well as a convenient on-site healthcare facility, cafes, fitness center, and more. Start your future now. Entry-level production positions start at $16 an hour for second or third shift. Visit densocareers.com/Maryville to learn more and apply. The Bluetick Tavern is home to the tastiest pizza in Blount County. Try our signature Broadway barbecue pizza, grilled chicken and red onions covered in mounds of mozzarella. Or sink your teeth into our one-of-a-kind chicken and bacon pizza, made with an olive oil base, grilled chicken, bacon, red onions, and covered in Brussels petals. The Bluetick Tavern also has salads, sandwiches, and the area's largest beer selection. Regularly recognized as the best pizza in Blount County, it's the Bluetick Tavern, located at 128 West Broadway in downtown Maryville.
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards along with the rest of our broadcast crew, and now it's time for the local scoreboard, sponsored by Mandy B. Street Realty. Donnie Moore, a lot going on out there score-wise, and Alcoa track and Alcoa softball.
Yeah,
Had
we
a
got
good week.
Everybody's kind of wrapping up things, moving on from district tournament action to regional and now to sectionals and
Or the house.
And that's right.
Some of them have headed to the house.
Some of them have headed to the house, and some of them are heading on to the state tournament action here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So
extended the school year. So
that's right. So we'll see what's going on here. Compliments of our Mandy B. Street Realty local scoreboard. Start off with a little bit of high school baseball, and we'll see a little bit more about that action here a little later on in the show. Most of this action occurred on Thursday of this week. In Region 2A, Greenback versus Coalfield in the finals of the district. Coalfield beat Greenback 6-0 in the finals, and then Greenback extended their season versus Oakdale in the consolation game 8-7, kept their season alive. Cherokees advanced to the sectional on the road on Wednesday the 17th. So congratulations to Greenback for keeping their season alive.
And we've got them in the house.
We're going to talk to them here in just a few minutes.
Yep.
In soccer action, District 2A, Alcoa versus GP. Traditional matchup right there. They just GP just keeps turning up like a bad penny for Alcoa. Alcoa beat the GP 3-2 in the district championship. So the Tornadoes host Chucky Doak in the Region 1A semis on May the 16th. That's Tuesday. We'll see how that turns out. I used to have an old coach that called Chucky Doak. He called it Choky Duck.
Yeah. Now, let me get this squared away here. Alcoa's got just about everybody still in postseason play
Just
except
about.
baseball.
That's right.
Right now. They got
Baseball's-
soccer, they
baseball's
got
eliminated.
softball, and they got track.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
They sure do. That's yeah, and track, and we'll talk about track just a little bit later
Yep.
because they don't even have a track. They have
Right.
practice in other
Right.
facilities. Let's talk about softball. This action happened Thursday as well. Alcoa at Union County for the District 2 A championship. Alcoa defeated Union County 7-3, and hey, those girls have got a good softball team. So they're moving on.
Well, they were at the state last year.
Yes, they were.
And
Sure
all
were.
they've done is add to that team.
Yeah, they're loaded. I'm telling you, that team is loaded. They're doing a great job this year, so they'll continue to move on.
I mean, I'm not prognosticating, but
Go ahead, Marcus. Prognosticate.
if I'm Karen Weekly, I may work out a trip just to go catch up with one of my former players over at Alcoa, just to see how they're doing.
No doubt.
Not like I'm going to just scout and see how
Yeah.
many players I might want off that roster.
Just to check out that girl because hey, she's got some players. District Player of the Year, and they've got a gal that can throw that ball too.
But yeah, they're set up for a nice run. And I hope
They sure
I hope
are.
they continue it with regional play.
And moving on to Alcoa track and field, Class A sectional at Jefferson County. Alcoa won not one but both girls and boys sectional championship at Jefferson County this year on Thursday for the second consecutive year. And they're both moving on to the state meet coming up in a couple of weeks. So without a track, Mike.
Without a track. And Coach Frary, he was at William Blount,
Yes.
for several years. What an outstanding job he does.
He
in
does.
track.
Does a
He
great
had
job.
outstanding teams at William Blount and went over to Alcoa.
Yeah.
And
Has some good help. James Rayner
Yeah.
was one of his assistants over there.
I'm telling you. Of course, he's got a lot to work with over there, Coach Trail. If you don't
Well-
have a track and you're going to the state, you got some people to work with, buddy. You're not selling. These programs, you hear all this talk about, well, we got to have the facilities. We got to have a weight room. We got to have artificial turf. We got to have it. He didn't even have a track.
Got some fine athletes.
Unbelievable.
His guys don't even know how far they run. I mean, they just run.
He's got some fine
I was
athletes
asking Donnie,
over
I
there.
said, well, where do they practice? I said,
Both
"We just
girls and
find a-
boys. They've
they
got
just
some fine athletes.
Find a
over there.
field somewhere and go out there and have practice, or it's got to be a scheduling problem because if you use these other high school tracks, they're practicing.
Yeah, you got to wait till they get done.
I mean, it's a real problem.
They've been, at one point Maryville was sharing facilities. I think William Blount sharing facilities. I think Heritage has helped them out once or twice.
They have.
There's a lot of cooperation there, and Alcoa's got a chance. And where that makes a difference is between Alcoa's always had good sprinting, always had good middle distance. But where it makes a real big difference is having those practice facilities is with your big guys, with your throwers.
Yes.
With your field events, having
Indeed.
a high jump pit to work with, having a pole vault pit to work with, those kind of facilities. And the other key is don't underestimate what's both Coach Ferry and Coach Haggard. But Alcoa's distance was something they've not had until about 10 years ago.
Pam Haggard does a great
And
job.
now they
with
can
their
count
distance
on
running.
count on making points in the 2 mile and the mile and those relays where
Sure.
that wasn't a given before. And that's what makes Alcoa so tough to beat on
right.
the track right
Coach
now.
Trail, if I was coaching track at one of these other schools and Alcoa wanted to use it as good as they are, I'd be charging some rent, wouldn't you?
I'd be closed for a while here.
Yeah, but
Better believe it.
yeah. But
Well, that's it for our local scoreboard, sponsored by Mandy B Street Realty. I'm going to throw it now to our veteran sports writer, Marcus Fitzsimmons, for his feature. Mark it down. You're listening to WKCE 105.1 FM and 1180 AM Mid-Century Radio.
Well, thanks, Donnie. And you led off the scoreboard with just who we got visiting with us this morning.
That's right, we did.
Greenback Baseball has come back to join us, and this time we got you, Coach Ridenhour, in the house with us. Coach, I'm going to lead off with you that this was a challenging Thursday for you and your team. You're in the region championship game, do not get the result you're looking for, and you have to turn around and play a consolation game that night. How did you get these guys turned around to play? Because that letdown is hard to get over to be up for the next one.
Yeah, I called a couple people I've talked to. I've kind of said it was a roller coaster of emotions. You know, coming back, we really played well on Wednesday and really swung the bats well against Oneida, and were able to run rule them. So we had some confidence going into Thursday morning, knew that was a big game. And kind of a freak accident, we had our number one pitcher back because he actually got hit by a line drive on the Wednesday game, Caden Lawson, coming back for Thursday's game against Coalfield. So we liked our chances. We knew Coalfield was a good team. We unfortunately didn't swing the bats very well that game. But, you know, I think we had a 3 to 3.5 hour break, and I think our guys maybe got a little complacent, you know, kind of lethargic a little bit. We've already beaten Oakdale 4 or 5 times during the year. So I think we walked in with maybe a little too much confidence, but love the grit that we had that day and the fight in our kids. And these two guys next to me made play after play, and were able to pull it out in the end.
And if people didn't pick up the Daily Times or weren't hanging around Greenback on Thursday or Friday, y'all did win that consolation game, have a date for sectional set up for Wednesday. But you mentioned the two guys you brought with you. Give us a quick introduction. Who's in the house with us?
Yeah, so I got sophomore catcher and infielder Noah Graves. Hits in the middle of our lineup, been a big key for us all year. And freshman J.J. Caudle next to me right here, who's infielder, pitcher, and has also hit in the middle of our lineup. These two guys have really helped us get to where we are, and I'm super proud of them.
Well, if I'm reading the story out of the Daily Times correctly, both had pretty big games for you in that consolation final. Coach, I'm going to come back to you, but let me pick on them a little bit. And we'll start with Noah because you get in that consolation game, you're down quick. Get into the third inning, and what's going through your head when you're in that situation? You're in the position to bring some guys in, and you deliver a double and get things rolling.
I knew I was hot with the bat going into it, but not really thinking anything. Got a lot of curveballs, thinking middle away, just trying to do a job, get on base.
And obviously you got one you wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially those two guys in front of me, Brady Allison and Cooper Williams. Without them, those 2 runs don't score. So,
is it a little more? Is it a good kind of pressure seeing those guys out there because they're looking in at you, waiting for you to deliver for them?
Yeah, it feels pretty good getting them in afterward too. And
did this one? Was it a hit where you knew you were going to be able to make a double out of it, or was one where you're like, I'm going to have to leg this one?
Yeah, I hit that one pretty hard. I was in the gap pretty.
Coach, did you know?
That's what we call a stand-up double. Yeah, he didn't have to worry about that one. That one, the ball was hit pretty well in the gap. So,
Coach, what did it mean for you in that situation where you go into third down 7-0, and you have these guys deliver? Was there a moment in there between the innings where you said, "This is guys"?
Yeah, we had a couple talks. I think some of my assistants were able to get them fired up too, but we needed a spark. And it started with Brady and Cooper getting on, but Noah kind of delivered the big blow with the double to really get us going. And Noah's an emotional player, brings some good energy to the dugout and to the field, and we needed that at that time. And I think that just got the ball rolling for us.
And then do we give the hero moniker to JJ? Can we get or
sigh of relief monitor more?
Okay, sigh of relief.
Yeah, sigh of relief, because that's
2 big moments for you in that game.
Yes, sir.
The first one, everybody's going to start with the big one. We're going to start with the one that I think matters more because it kept the roll going there. but the RBI single in the third that it really cut the lead in half. How big was it for you to get up in that situation, and you're following the guy beside you there, so.
Yeah, I mean, those are the spots that I want to be in. I want to be able to provide that spark for our team, and we got the hit, did a job, and kept it rolling.
How much did the past experiences with them kind of factor in? I mean, you must have been surprised to go down early to them, but knowing you had the ability to play with them, how much of a factor was that when you were trying to rally up?
Oh, it was a factor. I mean, we just got punched in the mouth, but we were able to get some momentum going, and we just kept building on it.
Now the big play, clutch situation, trip to states on the line, no pressure, right?
No.
So what do you go? When you go up to the plate, what are you looking for in that situation?
In that situation, I mean, I had obviously a winning run on third, no outs, bases loaded. Infield was playing in. I was just trying to get some out in the air and do a job. I wasn't trying to go yard or do anything too much.
Just playing whatever they gave you, trying to put it into play.
Just took what the defense gave me. Yep.
Okay. And what was the celebration like? Because you all got to walk this one off.
Oh, it was crazy. I think I got tackled like 5 different times, have a couple bruises, but this one meant a lot.
Those are good bruises, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Those heal quick.
Oh, yeah.
Coach, you get this one done, and this is one that's it's a little bit of peculiarity to me. Y'all win this thing on Thursday. You got 6 days off before the sectional, and you don't even know who you're playing yet because I'm looking at it, and University School in Hancock County don't even play until this afternoon.
Yeah, it's a lot of downtime, but I think it's a good time. We needed some rest after a couple long days. And, you play tournaments, you need some arms to rest. You need an opportunity to let your body heal. And then starting early next week, we'll be able to get some swings in and go back to working on some fundamental stuff, setting up. One thing I did want to say, both these guys were a lot calmer than me. I got to talk to both of them before that last at-bat and that last inning, and both of them were just like smiling, having fun, and I think I was much more nervous than them. Even though I had faith in them, it's still baseball, and you never know what can happen. So it was good to see out of those guys.
And that was the other thing I wanted to ask you about was the confidence level. Because this team, I mean, it took some losses, but everybody almost on your schedule that's not in the district is bigger than you and an opportunity to get something and develop something.
Yeah, we schedule that way for a reason. We play, bigger schools because those are the type of schools that we feel like we're going to see if we want to get to where we want to go. And I think playing those schools prepares us for those moments. Like these two young guys next to me. They weren't rattled by the situation. They play good summer ball, and we play good teams all year. So when they step into that, they have confidence going in, and that's kind of why we schedule the way we do.
So in a way, it was a payoff, and when it came down to it, you needed to get that win. You may have been nervous, but you knew they could do it. But that was what was making you nervous.
Yeah, I was nervous just for the situation, but I had confidence in these two guys that they could do it. They ended up actually intentionally walking Noah to load the bases to get to JJ, which was probably a smart coaching move as far as giving the force out at home. But JJ ended up delivering. So,
guys, what does it mean for you all to still be alive at this point in the season and have a date to play for the state tournament?
It means a lot. We really needed it. The big thing last year, we made it to sub-state and fell short, so we're just trying to get to state this year. Never satisfied.
Yeah, never satisfied. I mean, we got, especially for our seniors, being down, getting punched in the mouth, being down 7-0, I didn't want our seniors to go out like that. I want to be able to give them a ride that we can remember.
And we had some of them in here a couple of weeks ago, and they seemed pretty confident about and liking what the team had the potential to do. And it sounds like maybe that's a general team attitude. Do you all feel like maybe there's a little bit of a mission still ahead? Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been like that since preseason this year. That's been the goal, is to get to Murfreesboro.
So, Coach, have they told you that? Is that
maybe quietly discussed, but we all have the same goal. We want to take it a game at a time, but our end of the day goal is to make the state tournament, and we've put ourselves in a position to do that. Now it's just go taking an inning at a time.
So, and this will go back to where I was leading you to earlier, having this break that falls because you all took care of district tournament so early, or region tournament so early.
Right.
having that break before sectional, does that bleed over, because that pretty much gives you one day with breaks on both sides if you're going to state, that you're well rested going into the borough?
I'm hoping it pays off. You know, I think rest is a good thing at this time of year, but you still need to get your work in, and we're going to get a lot of cuts in this week. Try to keep our bodies fresh, and I'm hoping it pays off.
Well, and I say that because most people realize that high school sports are kind of packed, but when it comes to the baseball season, y'all are packing like 40 games into 6 weeks. I mean, you're playing like almost every day, and sometimes 3 or 4 times over the weekend, that to get those types of games in. There's not a break, and people wear out, and people get senioritis, and people get into the school year.
There's a lot of factors going in at the end, whether it's prom or graduation or just end of the season, you know, wear and tear. I think both these guys can attest to that. Sometimes your body gets a little beaten up. So a day off here and there I think is really good for them.
And that does have an impact. So let's ask this one. The 2 big dates that always get in the way of the postseason are prom and graduation. How did those shape up, or are they still shaping up?
Well, they're done now, fortunately. The prom, we actually had to play a game at 10 a.m. Last Saturday in the district championship because we had prom that evening, which was fine. Those students need to enjoy prom. And then we actually moved the region up. It was actually supposed to be Friday, Saturday, and we moved the region up for Greenback's graduation last night. So we got it done, fortunately, but we did have to move some things around.
So another big night for the team anyway, because you got guys walking across that stage.
Yep, super proud of those 4 seniors that we have, Riley and Tyler and Brady and Lane. Those guys have meant a lot to our program, and to see them kind of walk across the stage last night was kind of a really neat honor for us.
And now I'm going to put the guys on the spot. Noah, JJ, you're still playing this season, but you got 4 big parts of this team getting their cap and gown, so you know they're not going to be back next year. At what point do you start thinking about what is my role as a leader on this team next year? What are we going to be next year? Does this one have to get over, or do you start taking lessons from how those guys led already?
Frazier was a big part in being our leader for sure, but Brady Collins and Lane were big parts as well. I mean, it's going to be hard without them next year because they were such big roles this year. And I've known them for, 2 years now?
Yeah.
And they've just been a big part in my life, so trying to take some parts from them.
Yeah.
How does that legacy pass along from one class down to the players that are still around?
It's passed down. I mean, I feel like this will be our emotional leader like Frazier was. Frazier was our emotional leader this year. And Wayne, Tulo, they were more of our lead by examples, and I feel like that's me. I'll lead more by example than I am emotional.
So, Coach, I know you already got gears turning and thinking you got to be kind of happy looking around.
Oh, yeah. I think both these guys have the opportunity, and they're already doing it. They're already leading in different ways. I think Noah's a fiery leader, which is what we need, which helped us the other day. JJ's a little bit quieter, but knows when we need a spark too, and I think both of them could take some things from our seniors that they do well and continue to build on that for future seasons.
Well, guys, I've been making this offer out to teams here. This is the deal. Because of the weird breaks in the calendar, our show's running later this year than it ever has before. We're going all the way into June. So if you get to Murfreesboro and win a state championship, we're trying to get all those guys and all those teams to come back in for the Memorial Day or the June 3rd show. So not that the state championship isn't a great thing, but winning your way back on the sports page for a 3rd time, we'll lay that out there as a challenge for you.
We like that. We like the sound of that. We'll take you up on that, hopefully.
Right.
Well, you guys could just pack up and meet us down there. How about that? Is that something we can make? You got that in the budget, maybe?
Mike, I don't know. Mike, have we got a road trip in there?
There you go.
Yeah.
Pack the van. We'll see you down there.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say this. I love the fact that Spring Fling is organized to the point it is after these years. I still think we should be able to get out of playing the high school facilities at the state tournament, but that's my personal thing, and I'm not going to put anybody on the spot with that question. Just my own observation, there's a lot of university baseball fields not being used at that time of year in the Nashville area.
For sure.
But we wish you all the best of luck down there. We'll say we're counting on you to get there, so no pressure.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
have a good game on Wednesday night, and we'll wish you the best of luck. And thanks for getting up on Saturday morning to hang out with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks
Thanks
for
for
the
having
offer.
us, man.
Mike, I guess we'll go ahead and turn the page.
Okay, Coach Ridenauer, before we get out of here,
Yes,
you
sir.
mentioned the prom, happened to work around the prom. When I was in high school back in Indiana, back in the day, I'd played baseball, but my senior year I didn't play because if you took college recruiting trips, and I took my basketball recruiting trips around the country, you couldn't play baseball. There was a rule in Indiana you couldn't play, but I had a lot of buddies that played. And for some reason or other, the baseball coach scheduled a baseball game the day after the prom.
Oh, man.
Well, it got word around that my buddies who were seniors, they wasn't going to the baseball game.
Nope.
You know, the prom was an all-night deal, and then maybe into the next morning, and they weren't going to go. They were not going to go to the baseball game. Well, the baseball coach said, well, if you don't come, you're done.
Uh-oh.
So they didn't show. He lost half his baseball team, is what I'm trying to say, because of the prom. But when you brought that up, I thought, yeah, I've been around that some. I know how that works.
Yeah, well, it wasn't originally scheduled, so we did try to avoid it, but we made it work somehow.
Yeah.
So better than the ending of your story.
Yeah. They were shorthanded.
Yeah, sounds like
I don't know how effective they would have been if they'd have showed up anyway.
That would have been interesting, for sure.
Yeah. Well, listen, good to see you, and good luck
to see you
as
guys.
you
Thanks
go
for
on
having
down.
us. Yep.
Yep. Hey, we'll take a timeout here, and when we return, Daily Times sports editor Troy Provo Heron will present the Anderson Lumber Company Player of the Week segment. You're listening to the Goatee Sports Page, Blount County Sports Voice, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month.
Your newspaper? That's right. The Daily Times is your newspaper, tailored to where you live, emphasizing the things that affect you and keeping track of the people and players in our community. The award-winning Daily Times can be delivered each morning right to your door or inbox with the latest in local news and sports. For a 30-day free trial offer, call 981-1100 and begin enjoying your life, your times, every day with the Daily Times.
Dunkin' has what you need to conquer the day. So if you want to go from, I don't got this, to, I got this, well, then get this. A bold, smooth espresso drink from Dunkin'. Like a layered velvety caramel macchiato, a rich chocolatey mocha latte, or a creamy non-dairy oat milk latte. Because this day isn't going to conquer itself. No, you're going to do that. Take a sip of You Got This with Dunkin' Espresso drinks. Order ahead on the app, plus earn rewards. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary.
For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, BF Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at stevensontire.net. Waters Equipment is your East Tennessee New Holland agriculture and construction dealer. Waters Equipment has been serving Blount County for 48 years and has 2 locations in Maryville for sales and service for New Holland equipment. Offering shop and field service for trucks and equipment of all brands, Waters offers equipment rentals for New Holland skid steer, Mini X, and tractors. Call 238-9000 for your rental needs. That's 238-9000. Waters Equipment New Holland. Excellence in service.
Since 1925, Anderson Lumber in Alcoa has proudly served and supported our local communities. But did you know Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store? You can stop in anytime and see our incredible kitchen showroom. From floors to cabinets and everything in between, Anderson Lumber's experts can help you design your dream kitchen. And then our install team will make it a reality. For anything home, we welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber, since 1925.
Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food.
No.
I gave it to you.
To the Blue Tick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, and it's time for the Anderson Lumber Company Player of the Week segment. And Donnie Moore, before we get to the Player of the Week, we want to talk a little bit about the Go Tees Sports Page Awards program that's going to be taking place at the Clayton Center this week, this Wednesday night. That's going to start at 6 o'clock. That's May 17th.
It's almost upon us.
It's almost here.
Going to be a big event, big affair, and we want to remind all of our listeners out there that they can get their tickets at the Clayton Center link. You have to go there because that's the way. If you use the Clayton Center, you have to use their box office.
That's right. Tickets are going fast too.
I think we've already sold 200 tickets, so it's going to be a jam-packed event, and we're excited for it.
It's $10 to get in, and I tell you, it's just outstanding that we have outstanding sports programs here in Blount County, in all sports.
Exactly.
And we've already talked about some of those this morning that are on their way to the state.
Sure, yeah.
Some are already going, and some are just a few games away. So
that's right. And the AD program, the athletic program of the year, is going to walk away from that evening Wednesday night with $5,000 in Go Tees apparel. And equipment. So I'm telling you, this thing is
it's a big deal.
It's snowballing. It is a huge deal.
It's a big deal.
Sure
I'm glad we're a part of it.
I am too.
Because the county deserves it.
Okay, Troy, yours.
Yeah, it's mine. And we are joined by a first-time guest. We've never had this program here before. Samuel Everett, girls tennis in the building, and we're joined by their coach, Mark Rivera, Hannah White, and Estella Bookout. And Coach, I want to congratulate you guys on a really good year. Unfortunately, it came to an end a couple days ago, but district champs for the first time in program history, a very new program. And Coach, I want to start with that. To win the district championship in second or third year of the program, just how special of a season was this?
Surreal is the word.
Yeah.
And it just keeps getting more surreal because I could go through a whole list of first for us as a program, but I didn't think sitting on a radio sports talk station was going to be part of the pageantry. And thank you for having us on.
Of course.
And it's, I just don't have a word for how special the season has been. It's just been unbelievable.
Hannah and Estelle, I want to talk to y'all about it. Was it something that at some point in the season y'all kind of realized, like, hey, this is a real possibility, something that we can kind of leave our legacy, leave our mark on this program and win this thing? And when was that, when you guys kind of felt that?
I definitely really did not know what to expect. Right. This was my first year at Samuel Everett, so I'd played at William Blount and was familiar with their program, but I wasn't familiar with this program, so I didn't know, like, who was in the district, what kind of teams we were going to be facing. So I was kind of like, didn't really know the whole season. And then it's like, we're going to districts. So that was cool.
Whenever I had like a moment where I was like, oh, we can actually compete now, was like whenever last year before we had Estella, we played a really strong team of like Gatlinburg, I think, Gatlinburg-Pittman. And they completely smoked us, like 8-0, I think. And then this year, it was pretty much the opposite. We kind of smoked them, and that was the moment where I was like, oh, we're doing something now.
Pretty good now, huh?
Yeah.
Coach, I want to talk about Estella joining the program. Obviously, she has some of this postseason experience from a year ago at William Blount. Just how much do you think that helped kind of elevate your program this year?
It helped a lot. Estella was there, of course, for all of our district matches and postseason matches. And it helped a lot in the respect that we have always been playing players higher up than any coach would have played them if he or she had the option. And I just didn't have that option. And frankly, based on all the press releases I sent you last year, we were having some level of success. But when Estella stepped in to the program, everybody was in an appropriate spot, and the success was just stupid is the word. That, when I do the stats and I see undefeated, it was had a lot to do with Estella being there and covering that number 1 spot so well. She, of course, lost no matches in season, and partnering with Hannah at number 1 doubles, they were unbeaten all the way through the district championship.
Yeah, I want you to talk about Hannah too, because obviously she was a part of the program a year ago. So how much have you kind of seen her grow in the year that obviously led to this?
She was like a phoenix coming out of the ashes when we started the program from nothing. You know, she just put her mark on the program. It's kind of a long story to tell you how she became captain.
We got nothing but time.
Well, you know, when we were trying to pick captains, we had brand new players,
yep.
and Coach Rick Howell was a big part of this success. Was my assistant, and we had gone classroom to classroom to get this team together because we started with just 2 coaches and no program whatsoever, no players. 9 of the players that we ended up having had no rackets. But when we got them together, they were a very special group, you know, 16 very special players. And picking captains was not so difficult on the boys' side, but on the girls' side, it was really hard. We had some real leadership there. And Hannah wasn't in that mix. But the 2 that we were narrowing down to, Hannah started to catch our eye with her work ethic. She just worked so hard, we could tell she was working away from the court. And at one of our practices, when we finally decided, hey, we've got to pick a captain, you know, we got to do something. And one of the players cut a run short in a conditioning run. And so I asked the player, I told the player, you know, you got to do that again. You cut that way short. And so she took off, and Hannah took off with her. And I said, no, Hannah, no. You don't. And she just said, she's my teammate. I don't want her to do it alone. So at the end of that practice, I looked at Coach Rick. I said, you know, I've got my captain. He said, me too. And it was Hannah White. And I said, by the way, she's my captain for life. And so that's the mark that she put on it immediately. And then performance-wise, I told her she didn't have to play number 1. We could alternate players. She took horrible beatings that first season. But and there were tears. You know, we had tears. And she said that, no, I don't want anyone else to do this. I'll keep playing number 1. And I'm talking, you know, 8-0, 8-0, 8-1. But now she's very, very successful. Even her singles record is awesome. And so Hannah's been, you know, the short answer would have been huge. That would have been my one-word answer. Huge impact on the program.
Hannah, what did it mean to you to be named captain?
I thought it was pretty cool. Honestly, I wasn't actively trying to be captain, but I kind of wanted to be captain because in middle school I'd always been really looked over in sports. So this was kind of okay, I had put in work before in middle school, but I'm getting somewhere for once. So that kind of was really cool at the time.
And there are kids who, like Coach just said, you'd take the 8-0 losses over and over again, day after day, and some kids would quit and say, you know what, I just don't want to sit here and do it. What was it about this sport and this program that kind of made you want to continue to work at it and get to the point where you are at now?
Well, I knew that playing better players than me, even if they're just destroying me everywhere, I knew that would help me improve. So I didn't really see the point in downgrading to playing someone who was slightly less good. Probably still would have helped me, but I wanted as much help as I could get, and at the same time I didn't really want to make anyone else go through what I was going through, even though sometimes they were, we were very much playing higher, all of us were, but just I didn't want someone to feel that hard of beatings every single time. There was a lot of success still underneath me, so I was I wanted them to keep it. So
Still, I mentioned earlier, you had a really good postseason last year with William Blount,
yes.
And now you go to this new program that hasn't had that postseason success, but they have established kids in their program. You're the new kid. So you have kind of a leadership aspect from the fact of you've been there, done that before, but you also don't know the program. How did you kind of balance that line?
I think I just tried to help and explain things to the other players as much this is what to expect in the tournament. This is, we play 2 sets in the tournament, best of 3 sets in the tournament instead of, your pro set. This is how you take the hard hitters. This is what you do against them so you don't just get creamed on, every shot. Just stuff that I'm used to from higher level tennis at William Blount, and then you come here and it's okay, I can really help these guys see, just because they come out hitting hard doesn't mean it's an automatic loss for you. I mean, there's stuff you can do against that. So, yeah.
This is for both of you, but obviously tennis is it's a unique sport in the fact that you guys play singles, and so you kind of are playing for yourself as well as the team, but then you guys also play a doubles where you kind of have to adjust to being part of a two-man team. Just how long did it take for y'all to kind of mesh as a doubles team, and kind of what was that process like?
I want to talk about her. It was really awesome to have her as my doubles partner this year because we were very kind of nervous around each other probably. Well, I was. I don't know about her. But it was kind of intimidating to have someone who was like so much better than you just show up and be like, what's up, you know? She didn't say much at first, and I was like, I kind of was nervous about that, but then we got to talking a little more, and like she was my own personal mentor, if you will. She helped me so much. I am very bad at like identifying weaknesses in my opponents, and she just instantly could get it. I'm like, how? So she really helped me work on that, and she helped me a lot. She just helped me with strategizing and everything under like the tennis umbrella she helped me with, and I was so grateful to have her as my doubles partner to where I was learning and not having to be the one helping someone else learn.
I think I agree, a lot of fun because she's so easy to take in. Some players don't want you saying anything to them. And so, but she was like, soaking it all in, and she's, okay, what's our strategy here? And, so open to just teaching, like not teaching, but more strategy, and this is what we're going to do against these people, and this is what we're going to do against them. And so it was nice. It was very nice.
Mark, we mentioned the district championship, but what's it like when that final point is scored, and kind of what are the emotions of all of that?
Just gratitude, just gratitude to be around them, be with them when it happens. I just, I look at the players when I'm amongst them, and our assistant coach, Coach Troy Sweeney, is just such a huge, he couldn't be here today, such a huge piece of the puzzle. And I just look at all those people and think, how in the world did I end up in this place? And just gratitude.
What was it like for y'all to kind of lift that plaque and kind of celebrate?
Scared of dropping it. I got on one of my teammates' backs and held it above my head, and he was gone, and then suddenly from across, like the tennis court across the parking lot, I just hear, "Don't drop that plaque." So I was like, I'm taking this picture. I'm already up here. But it was pretty cool whenever we won the districts. And in the regionals, my last point whenever we lost, I was just like, oh, shucks.
Yeah, I was like, it didn't even really feel like a district match at first, because I was like, it just felt like another match. But then after we won, I was like, oh, wow, we really just won districts. Yeah. That was really cool.
Coach, obviously, when you have a year like this, and now that it's over, you kind of can reflect on what you did. But
Can
you
I
also
interrupt you a minute?
Go ahead.
It's not over because
individuals, right?
Estella's in. I think that young lady right there is going to be playing for the state championship.
Well, we're hoping for it.
She
right?
is a warrior princess.
Yeah.
That sweet demeanor, when she's playing, it stays sweet. But man, she fights for everything, and that's all you can ask. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. But from the team aspect, just how big of, I guess, a jolt for the program is a year like this when you're talking about, trying to recruit more kids and get all that stuff kind of going and keeping it longevity-wise?
Great question. It'll make it a lot easier when I go into those classrooms to recruit, when I'm holding two plaques, the regional runner-up and the all-district championship. Instead of listening to crickets after I give my elevator speech, I expect to see some people raise their hands and come out and give us a try, because we'll take anybody in. We started as beginners, rote beginners, and they very quickly learn to play the game and win points, and then win games, and ultimately win matches, and then beat other schools. And that's the progression. And there's more out there, but it'll be a lot easier to get them now because we're champions.
Stella, what is the mindset shift now? Obviously, you've kind of spent most of the season playing, but also kind of looking to your left and your right, cheering on your teammates, all that stuff, and now it's kind of it's your show, and you're kind of the one who's trying to push it through the postseason now.
I'm excited. Honestly, it's my senior year, so get every point I can and go as far as I can. Just see what I can do. So.
How much can you lean on the experience you had last year at William Blount? I know y'all made a long run at it.
A lot, just because I've been to the state championship, and I know what to expect, know the environment, so that helped me a lot.
Any part if you want to see Baylor Cup and John Macon at state too, and when you guys get there?
I think that would be great. Senior year for them to go out with a bang. Yeah, for sure.
Coach, just what is your message to her as she kind of now enters this individual journey and trying to get to state?
She already knows what I'm going to say. It's just you and the ball. Play 1 point at a time. And she plays like this, and there's nothing more meaningless in any sport than any point or game that you've just won or lost. That's all I got, man. That's how you play.
Hannah, what's it going to mean to you to watch her kind of go through this? You just mentioned kind of the mentor that she's been to you. Just what's it going to be like for you to kind of watch her try and take this path to state?
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome to watch. I want to try and be there if I can, but I'm pretty sure it's a travel. But, travel's fun. But I would really like to see her be successful because in the short period of time we've known each other, she's meant a lot to me. So I really, really want to see her successful, and it doesn't hurt that she's representing our school.
And I'm not drawing a blank. What year are you?
I'm a senior.
Senior. So
these are 2 magna cum laudes sitting with me right here.
Just I want you both. Really, I want Hannah to do it because I know Estella, you're new. Just what's it been like for you, and how do you kind of reflect on your career here? Obviously, like Coach said, started it from the very beginning when you joined it, and now to be here, district champions, to have the year y'all had. Just what has it meant to you to kind of be a part of watching that program grow the way it has?
It's really helped. Not only like the program itself has grown, but it's made me grow as a person. It's really helped. Not my work ethic, but just being accountable because I have been team captain. So I kind of have to be accountable to my teammates. And it's really weird to look back and be like, I could barely hit a ball, nonetheless hit a backhand a couple years ago, and now I'm like hitting cool stuff.
Well, we'd like to thank you all for coming on this morning. Congratulations on a great season. Estella, good luck the rest of the way, and we hope to have you all on again in the years to come, Mark.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
For making this possible and having us out here.
Of course.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Again, congratulations on a great season. Back to you, Mike.
Okay, Troy, time for a break. When we return, it's Sports Headlines with Donnie Moore and the Tennessee Smoky Spotlight. You're listening to the Goatee Sports page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com.
We all want our loved ones to be safe. Denso in Maryville is at the forefront of creating technology for safer vehicles. Join the automotive industry with Denso in a fast, challenging, clean, and safe environment. They offer great benefits and competitive pay, as well as a convenient on-site healthcare facility, cafes, fitness center, and more. Start your future now. Entry-level production positions start at $16 an hour for second or third shift. Visit densocareers.com/Maryville to learn more and apply.
Merlin's Music World in Maryville is owned and operated by Dylan Davis and has been a fixture in Maryville since 1987. Guitars, amplifiers, lessons, sound system, and video system installations are products available at Merlin's. Merlin's also offers a 24-track digital recording studio featuring audio engineer Rusty Chambers. Visit Merlin's at 1920 East Lamar Alexander Parkway or call 977-0093.
Hit a grand slam with Knoxville TVA Employees Credit Union to win big on savings. On first, member managed funds account. On second, free spend account. On third, certificate accounts with competitive savings rates. Load your bases at tvacreditunion.com.
Join us now.
Federally insured by NCUA. Must use e-statements for no fee option. Some restrictions may apply. Ask for details.
The Bluetick Tavern is home to the tastiest pizza in Blount County. Try our signature Broadway barbecue pizza, grilled chicken and red onions covered in mounds of mozzarella. Or sink your teeth into our one-of-a-kind chicken and bacon pizza, made with an olive oil base, grilled chicken, bacon, red onions, and covered in Brussels petals. The Bluetick Tavern also has salads, sandwiches, and the area's largest beer selection. Regularly recognized as the best pizza in Blount County, it's the Bluetick Tavern, located at 128 West Broadway in downtown Maryville. Waters Equipment is your East Tennessee New Holland agriculture and construction dealer. Waters Equipment has been serving Blount County for 48 years and has 2 locations in Maryville for sales and service for New Holland equipment. Offering shop and field service for trucks and equipment of all brands, Waters offers equipment rentals for New Holland skid steer, Mini X, and tractors. Call 238-9000 for your rental needs. That's 238-9000. Waters Equipment New Holland. Excellence in service. For over 50.
Welcome back to the Blue Tick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, and it's time for this week's sports headlines. And Donnie Moore, looks like you got a few of them.
I got a few. That's true. You know, I can always come up with a few headlines. Let's get us started with some NFL action. The Washington Commanders and a bidding group led by Philadelphia 76ers and New Jersey Devils owner Josh Harris have reached a purchase and sale agreement. It was announced yesterday. The Harris-led group is set to acquire the Commanders from present owners Daniel and Tanya Snyder if 24 of the 32 NFL owners approve of the sale of the team. The Harris Group, which includes NBA legend Magic Johnson and billionaire businessman Mitchell Rales, submitted a $6 billion bid back in March to purchase the team from the Snyders. Another $6 billion bid was reportedly received from Canadian real estate executive Steve Apostolopoulos. Say that 15 times.
Congratulations on that. That was wonderful.
Yeah, that was pretty good, wasn't it?
He's
I practiced that.
He's practiced that all week.
I practiced that. But
Isn't
questions.
that the name they used in Vegas Vacation? Isn't that what? Wasn't that the name they were using?
That was close, wasn't it?
Okay.
But questions arose as to whether or not he has the financial wherewithal to be considered a serious contender. Snyder purchased the team in 1999 for $750 million, and the Commanders franchise is currently valued at $5.6 billion per Forbes magazine.
I was in D.C. when the Snyders bought the team.
Really?
And it was a mix of relief and excitement, but a lot of trepidation.
Oh, yeah.
And I've got to say that in 24 years, they've delivered on every trepidation.
Oh, yeah, the trepidation has won out.
And
yeah, Snyders are not a really popular
owners. I think
owners.
D.C. is ready for this change.
I think you're right. I think they won't have any trouble getting the 24 owners to say, okay, let's do this. Longtime Major League umpire Don Dinkinger. You heard of him?
Never heard of him.
Well, he was a good umpire. But he made a costly blown call at first base in Game 6 of the 1985 World Series, and he's died. Major League Baseball announced yesterday. He was 86 years old. In Game 6 of that World Series in 1985, Dinkinger incorrectly blew this call of the KC Royals pinch hitter George Orta, and he called him safe at first base, even though Cardinals pitcher Todd Worrell received the flip from first baseman Jack Clark and had his foot on the bag. And there's video of it if you want to look it up.
But there was no instant replay back then.
That's right. Although Worrell and Cards manager Whitey Herzog argued the call fervently, there was no mechanism in place to overturn it at the time. Dinkinger was a big league umpire from 1969 to 1998, worked 3 All-Star games, 6 championship series in 1992, 75, 79, 82, 88, and 92, and 4 World Series in 1974, 1980, 1985, and 91. Dinkinger umpired 3,824 regular season Major League Baseball games before fully retiring in 1998.
Do we know if he ever tossed Charlie?
I thought Charlie was going to be here today. He was supposed to be here today, and I was going to ask him about that.
Charlie didn't get tossed often, but I'm just, you got somebody that worked that time for you.
Isn't that something that guy has umpired all those games, and the only thing they
he's remembered for that one blown call.
Yep.
Yeah, I know, and that's something.
That's awful.
I wonder.
That's how sports works.
Yeah,
you better believe it.
But that's terrible.
Listen to this article. Iowa Wesleyan University, the birthplace of the air raid revolution in college football, is closing its doors after 181 years due to ongoing financial issues. The school held its final commencement last Saturday, May the 6th. In 1989, Iowa Wesleyan hired little-known Texas high school coach Hal Mumme to lead its NAIA football program. Mumme teamed up with offensive line coach Mike Leach, wide receiver Dana Holgerson, and quarterback Dustin DeWald to create the air raid system at the collegiate level. The Tigers finished top 2 nationally in passing offense all 3 years under Mumme, who posted a 25-10 record at a previously average program. After his success at Iowa Wesleyan, Mumme moved up to D2 at Valdosta State and later brought his offense to the SEC at what school? You know?
Mississippi
Kentucky.
State. Oh, that's right. I forgot. He
went to Kentucky. Mumme's air raid coaching tree continues to grow, extending his impact and Iowa Wesleyan's on the sport. Holgerson and Leach each became successful at FBS head coaches. Leach's coaching tree includes Lincoln Riley, Cliff Kingsbury, Josh Heupel, and many others. Iowa Wesleyan received a loan from the U.S. Department of Agriculture in 2018 in the amount of $26 million, and just this last year, this year in 2023, asked for an additional $12 million to cover operating expenses. After this funding was denied, it was decided the school was to be closed, and now the USDA is taking control of the campus. They're closing their doors. Sad, isn't it?
Yep.
Now, I toss in there, you talk about Mumme, because his son coached in the USA South at LaGrange against Maryville College.
Yeah.
He reintroduced the air raid down there.
There you go, in D3.
And in D3, and it had some success, but it put a spark in that program and got it started when it was a brand new football program.
1989 is when the air raid was introduced to collegiate football. Well, I got a trivia. For you. On this day, May the 13th, in 1955. Everybody remembers that, don't they? Well, that was a year before I was born, so I don't remember that.
I was 5 years old.
But in 1955, Mickey Mantle, great hitter, Mickey Mantle, hit 3 consecutive home runs of at least 463 feet.
Yep.
Man, that guy could hit the long ball, couldn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. That guy could run, too, I'll tell you what.
He sure could.
He was an athlete.
He was.
He could have done he could have been a great football player.
He could.
Anything.
Track star, he could have done, yeah.
Yeah,
he was a natural athlete. Old Mick, the Mixter, hit 3 consecutive home runs of at least 463 feet. And that was it.
He's from Oklahoma.
He hit a charge, and he put a charge in those balls, didn't
he? Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I tell you what.
With a wooden bat.
That's not the farthest one he hit. The farthest one he hit was 565 feet.
Yeah.
I think he hit it out of Washington's Griffith Stadium.
Boy, oh boy.
Going way back, but big old arms on that guy, and
he was an athlete.
Yeah, he probably didn't even lift a weight.
No,
I'm sure he probably didn't.
He worked out there in the field in Oklahoma.
Yes, sir.
He was a country boy.
Yeah, he's an old country boy. Well, that's all for this week's sports headlines. Let's bring the Tennessee Smokies spotlight into focus. Back to you, Gunner.
We're back on the Goatee Sports page from Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville, and it's time to bring our panel back in. Donnie Moore, Marcus Fitzsimmons, and Coach Ray Trail. This past week, former Louisville basketball coach Denny Crum passed away at the age of 86.
Yep.
He led the Cardinals to 2 national championships in 1980 and 1986. Marcus, another basketball coaching giant's been lost. What an impact Denny Crum had on the game of basketball.
I mean, he was synonymous with Louisville forever. That was who you thought of when you talked about Louisville for a very long time. And I think even to this day, some people, that's who they imagine is still on the sideline, even though it's been years since he's been gone, retired. But, you know, he was a key part in that Louisville-Kentucky rivalry. And, I mean, even though it wasn't SEC, it still bled over to this area just because of the proximity. I mean, that was a big game.
Yeah.
And didn't Wade Houston play for him at one point or coach for him up at Louisville at one point?
He was an assistant coach for him at Louisville. Yeah. Crum played basketball at UCLA under John Wooden. You don't hear much about that, but he played there in the late 1950s under Coach Wooden, and he was an assistant coach for UCLA and was a part of 3 national championships out west. Led the Cardinals to 6 Final Fours. He made the NCAA tournament 23 times in 30 years. Overall coaching record was 675 and 295, and he was inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in 1994. Coach Trail, a lot of people had Denny Crum replacing John Wooden when John Wooden retired, but that didn't happen. He stayed at Louisville, and John Wooden retired, and Gary Cunningham, who stayed out there with Wooden as an assistant coach, they gave him the assistant coaching job. But there was a lot of play for Denny Crum, but I don't think he wanted that job out there.
No,
Louisville, he didn't have to go far to get players. Louisville was a hotbed of basketball, and he could just get them right there in Louisville. And I think he just saw all that pressure out there, and it was a no-win situation in California. And I think he just said, "Hey, I got a good thing right here. I'll build my name right here in Louisville, Kentucky. Great basketball state."
I think it was the smartest move you could make.
I think so.
And he wanted to do his own thing and be noted for he didn't want to be John Wooden's follow-up all the time.
And that's what he would have been out there.
That's right.
If he'd have lasted very long at all.
And how many guys actually succeed in that situation following the legend?
Yeah.
Not many.
He had it made. I mean, Louisville open arms to him.
Right, get in the car and go see somebody and sign him up.
Why would you want to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, why would you? He was making good money. Everything was,
Yeah.
I got everything I need.
And he was smart enough to know that. His teams were always, what impressed me about his basketball teams, they were always well-disciplined, and there was a great balance between offense and defense on his teams. They had a lot of great guards that played there at Louisville. He ran a clean program. You never heard of Louisville get in trouble. He played by the rules, and he was always in control on the sideline, kept his emotions in check. And just an outstanding coach. And then
in the old days, before all the money and all the hoopla that goes with it, you had guys that truly coached. They loved the coach, and it's not about the money; it's about the coaching.
Sure.
And you look back in all those old coaches, they didn't make this kind of money that they're talking about.
Exactly.
And a lot of them worked for very little money, really. And the true coaches, you look back at Bear Bryant, Darrell Royals, all the old ex-football coaches, they stayed with the university. They wasn't out shopping all the time looking for more money. And, they just enjoyed doing what they were doing, and they were a blessing to the players.
Yeah. I'm going to go back a long time, spring of 1969. And I had a real good fortune of meeting a lot of great coaches.
Oh, yeah.
Back when I was being recruited. Of course, at that time, they were not great. Well, outside of John Wooden, they were trying to make their way on up. But now as you look back, they were great coaches. But one of those was Denny Crum. And he recruited me at UCLA. He was the assistant coach out there to John Wooden. Came to our house, visited with my family, and then I went out to visit UCLA, and he showed me around out there along with Gary Cunningham. But it was mostly Denny Crum. And I'll never forget the trip. I'd never been on an airplane before, and they had me on a TWA flight to California. Got out of class on a Friday, put me on. Parents took me to Indianapolis, put me on a plane. I flew all the way to California. It was getting, it was late our time when I got out there because it was a 3-hour difference. And Gary Cunningham and Denny Crum they got tied up on the freeway, so there wasn't anybody there to meet me. And I was standing there in the L.A. airport trying to find people, and there was no one there. Finally, they showed up, and they said, we got to hurry. And we got tickets to the L.A. Lakers and the Boston Celtics in the playoff games for the NBA championship. Yeah. And so they took me right to the Forum, and then after that they took me out to eat. Well, it was my time. It was getting to be 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning by the time they got me back. And they said, "Now we're going to get you up for breakfast, and we're going to go on a yacht, and we're going to have the breakfast there on the ocean and go around Catalina Island." And they did that, got me up, and then later that day, John Vallerly and a guy named Patterson that played for UCLA took me to Disneyland. And then that night they took me down to Sunset Boulevard and Sunset Strip. And I hadn't seen the campus yet. I was staying in a motel out in Bel Air. And then the next morning, Coach Crum and Coach Wooden, we had breakfast, and then they showed me around the campus and so forth and so on. But he was an outstanding individual. I was really impressed with him, and he really wanted me to come there. He thought it was a good place for me, and of course Wooden was from Indiana, and they were recruiting 2 guys from the Midwest, myself and Alan Horniak from Ohio. Horniak went to Ohio State, and I ended up coming down here to Tennessee. But one of the things that I remember, but you're funny how you remember certain things. Yeah. But Coach Crum came to the house, and he was getting ready to leave, and we were on the front porch. And he says, "Now I got your plane trip all lined up for you to come to California next week," and said, "You're going to have a good trip out there." And he looked at me and he goes, "Do you like girls?" I thought of all that's going on here. Why would he ask that question? I said, "Well, I'm a little laid back, and pretty shy and everything." And then as the years pass, I'm going, "You were going to California? And the Beach Boys are singing these songs about California girls, and you tell this guy that you're shy and backward, and you're not comfortable." And I always got a big kick out of that. But our paths crossed one more time. We were playing in the Trojan Classic my sophomore year out in California. Houston, Michigan State, Southern California, and us were in there. All 4 teams were outstanding. They had records there at Christmas time. Only they were all undefeated, but Houston had 1 loss. We'd beaten them here in Knoxville. But after the tournament, we were in the L.A. airport getting ready to fly back, and somebody grabs my arm. I'm walking down the corridor, and it's Coach Crum. And he said they were coming back from Pittsburgh. They'd played in a tournament in Pittsburgh. And I'll never forget what he said. He says, "You know what?" He says, "Our guards aren't playing worth a crap," and said, "If you'd have came out here, you'd be playing right now." And I just kind of looked at him, and we carried on a conversation, and I'm thinking, yeah, you got Henry Bibby starting for you out there and one other guy. I don't know. I don't think that's probably going to happen. But anyway, he was just really nice, and he said, "Coach Wood and I are following your career. We're keeping up with you, and you're doing a good job. We're proud of you." I mean, it was just a really nice, sometimes you think about, you elected not to go somewhere, and you think about the bitterness, but that wasn't the way at all in that situation.
Well, class guys.
Yeah.
They were class guys. I mean, you're not dealing with the Crum.
Yeah.
They're class guys.
Now, my dad, it was a little different story with him because when I decided to come to Tennessee, he got a telephone call from Coach Crum, and they got into it. They got into it on the telephone because the telephone. Coach Crum didn't want me coming here. He didn't want me to come to Tennessee, and my dad and him got into the deal. And finally, Coach Crum says, "Well, I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to waste a scholarship, and I'm going to send the scholarship to him." And said, "We can't sign anybody else if I send that scholarship." Yeah. And so he did. He sent the scholarship. I still got it there, at the house. And anyway, they got into it. But the story doesn't end there. In later years, my dad's down at Byrdstown, Tennessee, in the middle part, and they drive up into Kentucky to a restaurant on a lake. And my mother and him are in there eating, And lo and behold, there was Denny Crum sitting across the room in the restaurant. And Dad goes, well, there's Denny Crum. Said, I don't know. I'm going to go over and talk to him. I don't know how this is going to turn out because it didn't turn out very good there about 15 years ago. And they went over there and carried on a conversation and got to laughing about that and talking about those days and so forth. And
well, that ended on a
you
good
know,
note.
You look back, Coach Trail, and I know you do too. There's some things you just cherish that money can't buy. And when Denny Crum passed away last week, I just it brought a lot of memories, a lot of memories back, to those particular days. But Marcus, he was a great coach, great basketball coach.
He was, and his legacy, his coaching tree goes far down into this region coaching wise. Even still, there's still a lot of bleed off from his players and his assistant coaches that are still felt in the ACC and SEC.
While he was out there, this would have been my sophomore year here. While he was out there, that particular year, that was 1971, 1972, UCLA's record that year was 30-0. 30-0, wow. And they won their games by an average of 30 points. 30 points. Now that's not the most remarkable thing about this. The remarkable thing is they started a junior, Larry Farmer, and a senior, Henry Bibby, at guard. Farmer was a forward. And then they started Keith Wilkes at forward, Bill Walton at center, and Greg Lee at the other guard position, all sophomores. They went 30-0 with 3 sophomores.
Goodness
gracious. Yeah,
unbelievable.
Great players. Great players.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Just absolutely unbelievable. And their winning streak, after that season ended, they had won 45 straight games. And, of course, it went to 88 straight games. And Troy's not here, so I can't ask him this, but who broke that 88-game winning streak, Marcus? Troy would have loved this.
I have no idea.
Anybody?
Tennessee.
Anybody?
No, I don't think anybody.
Notre Dame in South Bend with Adrian Dantley. Adrian Dantley.
Boy,
they broke the
88
game winning streak.
Dantley was a great player.
Yeah. But anyway, I remember. You remember the game that they played. This is getting a little bit off the subject, but the game that UCLA played against Houston in the Astrodome.
Yep.
You know how big a deal that was on television with Elvin Hayes, and Houston beat them.
Yeah.
Houston beat them down there in the Astrodome. And small world, when I was in Mexico, my teammate was Ken Spain, and Ken Spain played on that team at Houston with Elvin Hayes. And I always loved the story. He said that the coach, Guy Lewis, would get upset. He'd get upset in practice with the Houston players, and he'd say, "Get on the baseline down there. I want all of you on the baseline. We're going to run." And Elvin Hayes would say, "Well, I ain't running." Guy Lewis would say, "Well, let's take it on in. Let's take it on in. Practice is over, boys."
That's it. That's all. That's all of it.
Said,
I ain't running.
Ken Spain said anything that went on that he knew nobody liked on the team, they just put Elvin up to saying, "Well, we ain't going to do this." Guy Lewis would say. But anyway, you know that Astrodome was sold out for that game. It was a big deal.
Oh, yeah, I remember that
and
game.
Then they went, Houston won, and then they played, and Alcindor had an eye infection. He had a scratched eye and couldn't see. He had a patch over his eye, the center for Houston. And then they went back and played in the tournament, and UCLA drilled them, in the NCAA tournament. That's going back. Hey, Donnie Moore, it's time to break.
It is.
Hey, time for a break, and when we return, the panel presents the Shelter Insurance Bowl Predictions segment. You're listening to the Goatee Sports page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, BF Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at StevensonTire.net.
Your newspaper, that's right. The Daily Times is your newspaper, tailored to where you live, emphasizing the things that affect you and keeping track of the people and players in our community. The award-winning Daily Times can be delivered each morning right to your door or inbox with the latest in local news and sports. For a 30-day free trial offer, call 981-1100 and begin enjoying your life, your times, every day with the Daily Times.
Dunkin' has what you need to conquer the day. So if you want to go from, I don't got this, to, I got this, well, then get this. A bold, smooth espresso drink from Dunkin'. Like a layered velvety caramel macchiato, a rich chocolatey mocha latte, or a creamy non-dairy oat milk latte. Because this day isn't going to conquer itself. No, you're going to do that. Take a sip of You Got This with Dunkin' Espresso drinks. Order ahead on the app plus earn rewards. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary.
The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month.
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, and it's time for the Shelter Insurance Bowl Predictions segment. And Coach Trail, I know I'm rattling off on stories this morning because, you know, on Denny Crum, it brought back some memories. But when I took that trip out there, I only saw Coach Wooden on Sunday morning. And we walked around campus, and they were talking about Adolph Rupp and so forth, and how many games Adolph Rupp won. And I remember Denny Crum looking at Coach Wooden and saying, yeah, but, Coach, he hadn't won all them national championships like you won out here, you know. But anyway, one of the topics, and I don't remember a whole lot about, but one of the topics was Coach Wooden's wife was upset with him. He had a birthday that week, and Jane Mansfield, they invited Jane Mansfield to his birthday party, and she had planted a kiss on him, and Coach Wooden's wife wasn't very happy about that.
That's the way to stir the pot there.
He kept saying, yeah, Nellie's not very happy about that Jane Mansfield kiss I got last week.
No.
And Crum was just laughing and said, she'll get over it. She'll get over it. Okay, hey, let's talk some horse racing. Mage won the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah,
he shut us all out.
Sure did.
Shut us all out.
Best I could do was a show.
Yeah, you got a show, and it paid you $4.70.
Yeah.
And Coach Iruli's not here, but he had a second. But nobody had Mage. I think Mage went off at 9-1, didn't Donnie?
Yeah.
And it paid $32.42 to win and $14.58 to place and $9.08 to show. And I don't know. You had Raised Cane. Raising Cane didn't do much raising Cane.
I blame Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had Reincarnate, and it looked good for about 3/4 of the way, but going in that third turn, it just got lost back there somewhere. But it was third going into the third turn. I told them, told my wife, I said, it looks like we're going to make a run right here. I never even saw that horse after the third turn.
He made a run. He went that way.
Where's he at?
He went out the back.
Yeah. Well, Donnie, your impression of the Derby? Huh?
Well, you know, it was spectacular as always.
A lot of pretty hats there.
Yeah, a lot of pretty hats. Yeah. a lot of pretty
women.
Golden mint juleps.
Oh yeah.
$3,500 they were selling those golden cup mint juleps for.
Yeah.
$3,500.
$3,500 for.
Well, we're not
golden
drinking
cup.
out of any of them this morning.
No, sir, we're not.
Show.
For that, I better get the barrel with it.
Better.
Yeah.
Yeah. The cups were gold plated, I guess, but man.
Yeah, because that's something you want to have at home, just to be like, you know what?
Yeah.
I know we're just having pizza, but let's get down to the gold cup.
Let's break out the golden mint julep cups.
Yeah.
Man, it was a great race.
It was clean.
It was
a clean race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, it's gonna be tainted for all these horses' deaths.
Yeah, they lost 2 in races last Saturday that broke down in the races that they had to put down. That 7 horses.
Yeah.
In that week, and I don't know that they still know what's going on, huh?
I don't know. You know, they still do they still not know what happened to the 2?
The
I don't
20
think
in
so.
California, they hadn't figured that out.
No, they haven't. Yeah, 40.
40
out there.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's, I don't
I'm not
believe
sure.
I believe I'd take my horse home.
Well, they're going to the Preakness next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you kind of don't you think that raises a little bit of skepticism? You know,
Well,
going
it
to
has
Baltimore.
to. Has to.
Well, if I paid $1 million for a horse, my gosh, I'm not sure I'd take him.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't.
Well, Donnie, let's talk about Todd Pletcher.
Yeah.
He's been suspended
Pletcher's
10
been
days
suspended.
and fined as a result of a positive 2022 drug test involving Forte. Forte was scratched.
Yeah.
The morning of the Derby. I guess my question is, this happened in 2022. Why are they just now getting around to it?
I don't know. The wheels move slowly in some of these investigations.
Well, the timing was horrific.
It really
And
was.
you have to wonder if it was intentional to announce that when they did.
Yeah. I kind of wondered the same thing, Marcus.
Because you wait until he's in the Derby before you announce the
wait
test
till the
last
very
year?
morning of.
Yeah. They fined him $1,000 and suspended him for 10 days, but he's appealing it.
Yeah.
So that could take, I don't know, 3 months. So they're letting him do his job until the appeal takes place. The owners
kind of looks like the NCAA, doesn't it?
Yeah, the owners have forfeited. They're going to have to forfeit a winning purse of $165,000 that they got in the Hopeful Stakes because that's where the incident took place. It was, and Coach Trail, you might know a little bit about this. Meloxicam, a non-steroid anti-inflammatory drug. I don't know where that fits in horse racing, whether it's illegal or legal or how much you can give the horse. I don't know, but that's what it involves. But certainly not a suspension like they gave the head guy, the guy that was in the Hall of Fame.
Baffert.
Yeah, Bob Baffert.
Yeah.
Not a suspension to that particular extent. Forte will not be in the Preakness.
No.
But he could be in the Belmont. But unfortunately, Coach Trail, that horse, Forte, has not been able to participate in the Triple Crown.
That's
this year.
shame.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
One of those horses comes along every now and then.
Yeah, it kind of cheapens it just a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It makes me kind of think that, isn't that funny that a year later they come up with that deal? You know, I mean, that's what's really kind of.
I don't understand that. You know, right here at all the, the Triple Crown races and so forth, they bring it up. But
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That to me is, I think that's a setup.
Yeah. Donnie Moore, we haven't talked much about this year at all, but the IndyCar season has headed to Indianapolis, and they are there today for the Grand Prix at the Motor Speedway. It'll be at 3:30 on NBC. Things are a lot different now than they were when I was growing up. The month of May involved a week of practice. And then it involved 2 weeks of qualifications, 2 weekends of qualifications, and then the Indy 500 to last always on Memorial Day, whichever day that fell on, and that took the whole month of May. The first day of the time trials, qualifications, a lot of people, one of them was my dad, he would rather go to the qualifications than the race. They'd have 200,000 people at the time trials.
Yeah.
And that's changed a lot, too.
Carb Day was the biggest thing in Indy, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, in Carb Day back in those days, they didn't let anybody in.
Yeah.
Now they let them in for
You're
Carb
right,
Day.
yeah.
And back then they had carburetors. Now they don't even have carburetors. On the car. They just call it the Carb Day. But anyhow, to offset that, they've put this Grand Prix in there, and then they just have one weekend of qualifications now, and and then they have the race the last Sunday in May.
Sure.
But anyway, it'll take place today, and there's a lot of enthusiasm going on up there. And one of the interesting tidbits that's come out is that Roger Penske, who bought the track, 3 years ago now, I think time's getting away from me. He's put $50 million in that facility. I'm telling you right now, it's an absolutely gorgeous place. I mean, you go in there. Of course, he's a class act. You talk about a class act. You ought to see his team. They all got starch shirts, and I mean they got to wear no tattoos. Your hair's got. I mean, it's the wholesome college look on his race team, and that's the way he runs the speedway out there. I mean, it's just gorgeous. The grounds now. No riprap, the entrances and restrooms, and I get a kick out of some of the people that go with us. And back in the day, we used to sit back on the third turn, my wife and I, and the restrooms were wooden portable. I mean, it was a building, but it had wooden one-holes in there. Yeah. And it was rough. I'm telling you, it was rough. And now you state of the art.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, all the way around the track. I know that's a minor thing, but if you got to go, it's a big thing. And he's made some great changes. Now you couldn't have got a better owner than him. And it's really kind of unique. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway has never been like other sporting venues. It's all been owned by family.
Yep.
Which they've don't ask for any tax dollars, and to see something that's been done like that, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But he's added new TVs.
Yeah.
Where you can watch the race there and all the seats, and these are gigantic. I mean, that sun can be beaten down, and those TVs are clear as a bell, because you can't see all the way around the track. If you sit on the fourth turn, you can't see the first, second, and the back stretch. So they've got these TVs set up there. But anyway.
And you're going to be up there, right?
I will be up there the last of May, and we'll be up on the next to last row in turn number 4, and it's an exciting place to sit. You see him coming around on the last lap, and usually it's a pretty close race. You can see who's going to head down there to win it, and the flyover comes right over the top of us. You don't almost reach up there and catch the flyover. It comes around, but it's an all-day affair, and it's coming up. And it'll top off the spring. We talk about the NCAA basketball tournament, and we talk about the Masters golf tournament, and then we talk about the Kentucky Derby, and then you talk. I just think it's the greatest couple of months in all of sports, Marcus.
Yeah. Good deal.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Are we ready?
We're ready.
Close it out. Charlie Paleo said, by the way, he's on his way.
He is, He said he'd be here. He'd be in time for lunch.
He's not going to be on the show, but he's on his way here. Be here for lunch.
All right.
Go ahead, Don. Blow the whistle. Hey, that'll do it for today's edition of the Goatee Sports Page. Thanks to Aaron Ishmael at Loud Media, our host, the Blue Tick Tavern, and all our sponsors. For Donnie Moore, Coach Ray Trail, Marcus Fitzsimmons, Troy Provo Heron, and Brian Johnston at Goatees. Until next Saturday, this is Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, wishing everyone good sports.